Would there be anything else?
Yes, do you have a Miss Piggy?
The Blues Brothers is an iconic 1980 hit film directed by John Landis that was based on characters developed on the NBC television series Saturday Night Live. Taking place in Chicago, Illinois, blues vocalist Jake Blues, played by John Belushi, is released from prison after serving 3 years for holding up a gas station. He is picked up by his foster brother Elwood, played by Dan Aykroyd. Elwood picks Jake up in the new Bluesmobile, a 1974 Dodge Monaco that was a decommissioned Mount Prospect, Illinois police car that Elwood purchased at auction.
The car's got a lot of pickup. It's got a cop motor, a 440 cubic inch plant. It's got cop tires, cop suspension, cop shocks. It's a model made before catalytic converters, so it'll run good on regular gas. What do you say? Is it the new Bluesmobile or what?
The two go and visit the Catholic orphanage where they grew up and visit the Penguin, Sister Mary Stigmata, played by Kathleen Freeman. She informs the two foster brothers that the orphanage will soon be closed unless $5,000 are paid for property taxes.
They want $5,000.
Doesn't the church have to pay that?
They would if they were interested in keeping the place. But they aren't. The Archbishop wants to sell this building outright to the Board of Education.
An old friend and father figure of the brothers, Curtis, played by Cab Calloway, suggests that they go to the local Baptist church and listen to a sermon by Reverend Cleophas James, played by James Brown.
When I woke up this morning, I heard a disturbing sound. I said when I woke up this morning, I heard a disturbing sound. What I heard was a jingle-jangle of 1,000 lost souls.
During the sermon, Jake has an epiphany that he and Elwood can reform their blues band and raise the money to save the orphanage.
The band, Elwood! The band!
The band? Band?
The band! Praise God! And God bless the United States of America!
Jake and Elwood set out to put the Blues Brothers band back together, but soon wind up in trouble with the law after the state police attempt to arrest Elwood for a suspended license. He leads them on a wild and destructive high-speed chase through a mall, eventually evading capture.
I'm gonna catch that sucker. It's the last thing I ever do.
Soon, Jake and Elwood find 5 of the band members: keyboard player Murphy Dunn, lead guitar player Steve the Colonel Cropper, bass player Donald Duck Dunn, trombone sax player Tom Bones Malone, and drummer Willie Too Big Hall. All 5 of them are working at a deserted Holiday Inn lounge as Murph and the Magic Tones, playing soft music. After this, Jake and Elwood find trumpet player Mr. Fabulous Alan Rubin working as a maitre d' at the Che Paul Fine Dining restaurant.
Hey, come on, seriously, you guys. The food here is really expensive. The soup is fucking $10. Come on, let's go outside. I'll buy you a cup of coffee.
We're putting the band back together.
Forget it. No way.
We're on a mission from God.
Finally, they head to a soul food restaurant to find lead guitar player Matt Guitar Murphy and saxophonist Blue Lou Marini.
We got 2 honkies out there dressed like Hasidic diamond merchants.
Say what?
They look like they're from the CIA or something.
What they want to eat?
The tall one wants white bread, toast, dry, with nothing on it.
Elwood.
And the other one wants 4 whole fried chickens and a Coke.
And Jake, shit, the Blues Brothers.
As they attempt to make a comeback, they neglect to inform the rest of the band that they need to raise the money for the orphanage.
What's the name of the place?
The name of the place is, Bob's Country Bunker. Here we are.
Bob's Country Bunker?
Chicken wire?
In the meantime, they have everyone after them, from the police to Jake's parole officer, played by John Candy, to neo-Nazis led by their head Nazi leader, played by Henry Gibson, to a vengeful mystery woman, played by actress Carrie Fisher. They must avoid all of these obstacles to perform great rhythm and blues music, make the $5,000, and save the orphanage. Now, there is so much trivia about this movie, it would be impossible to talk about all of it. The Blues Brothers began as a sketch on the NBC show Saturday Night Live, with John Belushi and Dan Aykroyd portraying Jake and Elwood Blues. Their first appearance was on January 17, 1976, when host Buck Henry introduced them as Howard Shore and his All-B Band. They played the 1957 Slim Harpo song I'm a King Bee, wearing bee costumes that had been worn for the Killer Bee sketches on the TV show.
Well, I'm a king bee, baby, pushing round your hide. Well, I can make honey, baby, well, let me come inside.
John Belushi's interest in blues music was solidified in October of 1977, when he was in Eugene, Oregon, filming Animal House, also directed by John Landis. He heard blues singer Curtis Salgado playing at a local hotel, and he was hooked. With the help of pianist Paul Schaefer, Belushi and Aykroyd started assembling a band. They included Saturday Night Live band members Blue Lou Marini and Tom Malone, both of whom had played with the band Blood, Sweat, and Tears. They also got Steve Cropper and Donald Duck Dunn from Booker T and the MGs. Belushi brought in Alan Rubin on trumpet and Matt Murphy on guitar. The Blues Brothers recorded their first album, Briefcase Full of Blues, in 1978 while opening for comedian Steve Martin at the Los Angeles Universal Amphitheater. The album reached #1 on the Billboard 200, went double platinum, and featured a recording of Sam and Dave's 1967 hit Soul Man and the Chips' Rubber Biscuit. Rubber Biscuit hit #37 on the Billboard Hot 100, and Soul Man reached #14. While the band mixed the album, John Belushi, Dan Aykroyd, and their manager Bernie Brillstein outlined the concept of the movie to Universal Studios in a phone call. Based on the popularity of National Lampoon's Animal House and Saturday Night Live, they were offered a movie deal. By March of 1979, Dan Aykroyd had written a 324-page screenplay titled The Return of the Blues Brothers. It was intended to be a two-part film. John Landis came on board in spring 1979 and spent 3 weeks trimming the script down. Dan Aykroyd's original script was so long that, as a joke, he had it bound in the covers of a Los Angeles Yellow Pages book. The first cut of the movie lasted 2.5 hours, with an intermission. After one early screening, Lou Wasserman, the head of Universal, demanded that it be shortened, and 17 minutes were cut from the movie. Prospects for a successful release did not look good. Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi had left Saturday Night Live at the end of the previous year, reducing their bankability. Not to mention that Belushi's fame had taken somewhat of a hit after the failure of the film 1941 at the end of 1979. There are some references to Saturday Night Live, including a sign that says Mr. Bill's Barbecue, referring to the popular Saturday Night Live short.
Hear ye, hear ye. The Honorable Judge Sluggo says he wants the defendant to approach the bench.
Oh, I know, but he's gonna be mean to me, Mr.
Now he says the court must come to order.
Upon its release on June 20th, 1980, the Blues Brothers grossed a total of $115.2 million on a budget of about $30 million, making it a huge success. The Blues Brothers was among the top 10 grossing films of 1980, and it was also one of the best-selling Betamax cassette tapes of 1981. The movie was filmed between July and October of 1979. and this was the first movie to film on location in Chicago after the depiction of a Chicago police officer taking a bribe in the 1959 movie The Jumper. That film resulted in Mayor Richard Daley banning location filming in the city for his entire time in office. Mayor Daley died in 1976. This is alluded to in the movie when Mr. Fabulous mentions to a customer at Che Paul on the phone that Mayor Daley is dead.
No, sir. Mayor Daley no longer dines here. He's dead, sir. Oh, no. I thought it was supposed to be 5 years. Didn't you get 5 years?
This movie has some nice religious tones, with the brothers being on a mission from God to help save a Catholic orphanage. For the 30th anniversary of the movie, a Vatican newspaper called the film a Catholic classic, recommending it as good viewing for Catholics. The Pinto that dramatically falls out of the sky was an actual Pinto that was really dropped from 1,400 feet in the air. Chicago officials and the FAA required filmmakers to do 2 test drops before filming the final one. The car ended up falling 120 stories down. The plot about the Nazis is a play on what happened in Skokie, Illinois back in the 1970s. Neo-Nazis wanted to march in Skokie, Illinois, that had a very large Jewish population. The case went all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court, and a 1977 decision said that even neo-Nazis had the freedom and right to protest in the United States. The group did hold several Nazi rallies, but in Chicago, they never held any in Skokie, Illinois. That event influenced the Henry Gibson character and the neo-Nazis that chase after the Blues Brothers. While recording the soundtrack, Cab Calloway was needed to record his hit Minnie the Moocher in better quality than the original album. He came to the studio prepared to do the disco version, but the filmmakers said, no, do the original version. Calloway was reluctant, but he did, and boy did it work out nicely for the movie.
Hey folks, here's a story about Minnie the Moocher. She was a low-down hoochie-coocher.
Little Richard was asked to appear in the movie, but he declined because at the time he was only performing gospel music. For the role of the mystery woman, Olivia Newton-John was considered, but she was busy working on another film at the time. Now, there are a number of viewers, especially young people, way younger than me, who fail to recognize the entire premise of the Blues Brothers is one of comic impossibility, comic amusement, where the normal rules of suspension and disbelief in physics do not apply. 50 police cars piling on top of each other, or police destroying a shopping mall at ridiculous speeds to chase down a car, cars falling from a height higher than the Sears Tower. All of those things are done for comic amusement, and there are a lot of young people that fail to recognize that the Blues Brothers was meant to be more like a comic book than a real-life film drama. In 2020, the Blues Brothers was selected for preservation in the National Film Registry by the Library of Congress for being culturally, historically, and aesthetically significant to American history. I first saw this movie when I was extremely young, probably about 4 or 5 years old. The music is fantastic, and the movie is instantly quotable and memorable.
Are you the police?
No, ma'am. We're musicians.
I've seen many people from my generation of millennials, or even younger generations, who really like this film, and I think through time, it will continue to be remembered and enjoyed. With a cast full of more talent than you will see in just about any movie ever, hilarious humor, and fantastic music, I give 10 out of 10 stars to the classic and iconic film, The Blues Brothers.